Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are taking our very first look at the Tier 6 Italian destroyer, the Tarigo. Or is it the Tarigo? Somebody's going to have to let me know down in the comments below. You guys are always down there letting me know when I screw up, so please feel free. Now, we are, once again, using the wrong commander, in my opinion. You should probably be using Luigi Rizzo. If you guys haven't seen my previous videos on this, check it out. But Luigi Rizzo, we'll just go over his perks again real quick. We're running Jerzy Swirsky and Eric Bay. We're running Observant Rage, Swordfish, Perceptive, and Smoke on the Water with Unstoppable. Okay? Now, the reason I haven't done that is because I didn't realize that I had another commander for him when I made these videos initially. So, Giuseppe Segala Fogosi is the person that I was running during the video. So that's why I'm showing you him as well. So we are running Eric Bay, Jerzy Swirsky as per usual. We are running Contact as Imminent, Flank Speed, Perceptive, and Sidestep. Now, obviously, you could change Sidestep for Smoke on the Water. You could swap out Unstoppable for Rather Be Torching, and then drop this perk over to Quick Fix. Quick Fix gives you the same bonus, or same perk of when your engine is damaged, you're allowed to have limited mobility, whereas without either of these, you would just stop dead in the water. So I would say you got to run one or the other. If you're going to run this build, I would maybe go with running Rather Be Torching, so you get a little bit extra fire chance, and take Contact as Imminent off and go for a Quick Fix. Just my personal opinion. Changing to Flank Speed gives you more speed, obviously. And you can see I don't have it fully upgraded or anything like that because I don't play the Italian destroyers until this series. Alright, so with all that being said, let's take a look at the Tarigo. And we are running Aiming Systems Mod 1. We are running Propulsion Mod. And we are running Concealment System Mod. We are fully upgraded. And if you look, we're running the Italian Unity flag and the Type 4 camo. We do get our 4 exhaust smoke generators and our 4 engine boosts. Once again, it is a very powerful engine boost, but a very short engine boost, so keep that in mind. You get a 25% buff to our maximum speed, however, it only lasts for 25 seconds. Specs. For survivability, we have 15,100 hit points, which is not particularly good as we start to get up into the tiers, so keep that in mind. Artillery, you have 6 120mm guns in a 3x2 configuration. You have 11.2 kilometers of main battery range with a 6.5 second reload time on the turrets. The turret traverse time is 12.9 seconds, which is really slow for a destroyer, but overall, I don't find it to be too bad. HE shell maximum damage 1700 with a 7% chance to set fires, and the SAP is maximum damage is 2600. For torpedoes, you have the same 533mm Tubo Lancia Solari triples. You get 6 torpedoes in total, and they reload in pretty decent time of 70 seconds rather than 80 that we had previously. Still only do 10,000 damage. They're still detectable at 1.1 kilometers, and they reach out to 10 kilometer range with a 60 knot torp speed. AA defense is 13.2mm 76 caliber Beretta 1931s. You get 16 of those doing 33 damage per second, reaching out to 1.2 kilometers. Then you have the 37mm 54 caliber Beretta 1938. You get 4 of those doing 23 damage per second, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers. Maneuverability 39.5 knots without your engine boost running. Turning circle is not particularly amazing for a destroyer at 610, so you can see we're starting to get a larger destroyer. It's not turning quite as nicely. Still, rudder shift 4.1 seconds, not terrible, not amazing. For a destroyer anyway. It's great for anything else, but for a destroyer it's kind of middle of the road, I think. Detectability range by sea 6 kilometers. Detectability by air is 5.5. guarantee, or no, 3.1, sorry. And guaranteed detection is 2, and detectability while firing in smoke 2.6 kilometers. Alright, here's where I get to show you that I've played one battle in the ship, so there you go. That is a thing. But it showcases the ship pretty well, so I wanted to show. And plus, I mean, there's not been a lot of change from the beginning of this line till now. So we'll go over it. There's a same 16 millimeters of armor everywhere that you would expect. So nothing changes there. Exhaust smoke generator, SAP shells, and exposed. We've already talked about this. The concealment, not great, as we discussed back here with the concealment. 6 kilometers is not great, and that's with using concealment mod. You know what I mean? Alright, so let's look at the overview. The Navigatore class was a group of destroyers built for the Italian Navy in 1928 to 1929, in response to the large destroyers being constructed for the French Navy. Initially classed as scouts, these destroyers were significantly larger than the preceding class and had almost twice the displacement. She entered service 1929. There were 12 of them in the series. Alright, so let's take a look at it. I admit this camo isn't the best to take a look at the ship, but it gives me what I need for the ship. Now, as you can see, we have 3 double turrets and 2 triple torpedo launchers, and you can see that they're actually stacked on top of each other. So you got 2 bottom launchers and 1 on top of the other, but they're triple launchers either direction, or either way you look at it. But you got the double turrets there, you got some AA sprinkled in there for good measure, but look at the amount of distance between our 2 torp launchers. Okay, keep that in mind. They have an entire smokestack and a boiler and a gun platform, actually 2 gun platforms. One is for looks like a radio antenna of some sort. And the other is for the twin gun mount for the main battery. What this means is you have the worst freaking luck when it comes to trying to get these torps off. And then on top of that, they're just the most anemic torps on the planet. And as you go further and further through the tiers, these torps that do only 10,000 damage, when you hit a battleship or anything with any sort of torp production, you're hitting for like 4,000 to 6,000 damage, if you're lucky. So you really don't get much use out of the torpedoes. And that's why you probably should focus on the guns on these things, because the guns are actually decent. But overall, I don't like anything that I've played tier 6 and up for the Italians. The tier 5, I think, is the peak of the line so far. Maybe if I play the higher tier than the tier 7, maybe I'll be, have my mind changed. But for now, I think that this line peaked at tier 5. So with all of that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Sea of Fortune. I know, sounds familiar if you watched the previous video on these Italian destroyers. I don't know why I keep wanting to call them Japanese Italian destroyers. But, yeah. Again, we're going to showcase the ship in what I think is its prime existence. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think these are supposed to be the barn burner, like, crazy damage numbers. I think that these particular ships fall into the niche of hunter-killers. Kind of like the, Yolo Emilio, you guys know what I'm talking about, but worse than the Yolo Emilio, because Yolo Emilio has torps on both sides of the ship. It has a lot of torps, so, and they deal a decent amount of damage, so you can usually kill what you go after. And if you time it just right, you might end up being able to kill 2 people with 1 attack. Whereas these things, you don't have a chance. None of that. But what they lack in killing with torpedoes, they make up for with mobility, getting around the map, and being able to control the map. Okay? And I think that's a lot of what people don't get with destroyers in particular. Map control is huge. And being able to grab areas of the map and deny them to the enemy is a huge deal. And a lot of people just don't do it. You see a lot of people just, they don't understand the concept of going to a cap and holding the cap you don't necessarily need to cap the cap right away. Okay, especially if you're not in a destroyer. Destroyers, you get a little bit more leeway because it's a little bit less likely that you get yeeted off the planet the first time that you get into a cap. But everybody else, like, you can't just yeet yourself into the middle of the cap, especially earning a map, because you're just going to get killed. There's not much you can do about it. Especially battleships, and I see this a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. I tend to be really aggressive in battleships, but there is a fine line between being aggressive and being a moron. Okay? Very fine line. Speaking of morons, hello Akatsuki, how you doing, buddy? This is where we get to absolutely ruin you, but watch him hit me with HE here, and look, he does a third of my health and damage with his HE. Japanese HE from their destroyers is pretty nasty. Now, obviously, I ended up hitting my smoke here. Didn't need to, it was kind of a panic. But our teammates, fortunately, helping us get rid of the destroyer. We're going to drop our 6 torpedoes in the water, and we're going to spot for our teammate. Now, obviously, this is what you call not ideal. We knew the torps were here. That was the whole purpose of us coming over here. Come on, turn! Yep. God, it's good to be a destroyer sometimes. You know, being able to turn the ship and get the torpedo to go underneath the rear of the ship. You don't get that kind of luck in battleships, or even cruisers for that matter. If a torpedo gets within 5 yards of your ship, I swear it detonates every time. But you can see we do take a shot here at our cruiser friend, and then we get yeeted by our battleship buddy that helped us kill the destroyer and has now put me in harm's way, which is not ideal. But I'm looking at those torps and I'm thinking, those look pretty good. I'll be real honest. If they got enough range, they're going to hit them. But unfortunately, I do believe these do turn. I think he turned out enough. Like, if he'd have maintained course, obviously we would have hit him, but because he turned away, I think these actually run out just before they would have hit him. Now here we have a Bismarck. Now obviously Bismarck has longer range sonar, so we got to be careful there. We don't want him to detect us and cause us all sorts of problems. Remember, we've already lost a third of our hit points taking out the enemy destroyer, but notice the enemy has lost both of their destroyers. Now, once I am comfortable thinking that the Bismarck was going to do what I needed him to do, I go ahead and launch the torpedoes, and now my goal here is to turn inside and then try to get behind this group of people. I don't want to just sit here forever. I do want to cap the base, obviously. Once we get the base capped, then I want to get over across the middle of the map and try to get behind the enemy. As you'll notice, the left side has 2 battleships and a destroyer over there, and the destroyer is basically all alone. The battleships are starting to maybe take some shots through the middle at these guys, but for the most part, we don't have much choice. Now here we get spotted by the Bismarck momentarily, not the end of the world. I don't really care if they see me here because they're not going to be able to do anything about it. But we do manage to torp the Bismarck there, which is huge. And like I said, it doesn't do much damage, but the flood does do damage. And anytime you get that damage over time, especially from floods, it is devastating. So we're going to go ahead and put ourselves in a position to try to grab the decap. We know that the Bismarck is still flooding, and so he's probably going to die pretty soon. You can't survive a flood for too long. You'd have to get very, very lucky, especially if it was a really early damage control. Like, if I caught you right as your damage control went on cooldown with a flood, you're basically dead. I mean, you have to have a lot of hit points to survive a flood. But needless to say, as the Bismarck is still flooding, he's probably going... Oh, never mind. He just put out the flooding as I said that. We're going to try to get into the cap. Now, I don't want to get in directly behind the Bismarck because we already pissed him off. Last thing we need to do is put ourselves in a situation where he can yeet us into oblivion and get his revenge. Now, you can see he is pushing towards our cruiser right now, and I'm going to put myself into the cap. This will give us a 4 cap advantage. The enemy cannot take these caps without putting themselves in bad position. Now, our Boise does manage to take down the Bismarck, which is hilarious. And so he must not have had much in the way of health left. The Prince Heinrich here is behind the island. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit sketched out here because as much as I want to YOLO this guy, I know I don't have a lot of hit points. And I know that even if I try to YOLO him with smoke, he's going to be able to sonar me. he's got long-range sonar, so even if I smoke up, like, that does not help me in the slightest. In fact, it would be an advantage to him because he'd be able to spot me, and I wouldn't be able to spot him unless he fired his main guns. So he could potentially, if I go to YOLO him, he could potentially just sit there with a sonar on, let his secondaries eat me up, and I wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. So once we get the cap, we're going to go ahead and try to put ourselves behind the Heinrich here and see if we can't set up a torp strike. And there's the sonar, and that's worst case scenario because now he knows I'm coming. But I've already decided that, you know what, I don't care, I'm going in. And this could end horrendously, right? Like, it could. He's got his sonar on, so we're going to expect him to try to slow down here. And we're just going to hold the second set of torpedoes. First set looks pretty good. We're going to aim superstructure as well with the SAP and try to do some chip damage, just making sure. And sure enough, the torps, one of the few times that you're going to be able to make sure that you hit torpedoes is when somebody's coming around the island. Now, in fairness, that guy should have been able to dodge those torpedoes, but it is what it is. He didn't, so that's all that matters. So we've got 3 torpedo hits in this thing. We've got 56,000 damage. We've got 2 assist caps. And now we're wrapping back around to help with the rest of the enemies. Now, my thought process here was to put ourselves in a position to counter the battleship on the backside of the island, the one that's not spotted currently. The rest of these guys are up in the cap. They're in a position where they're going to get just caught in a crossfire from everywhere. We've got guys wrapping around behind. We've got guys out in front. So they're not long for this world. Boise held for as long as he could. Probably should have gotten out of there a little bit. I mean, he was fighting everything. So maybe use some island cover, get away from these guys if you can to survive that. But otherwise, he did his job. He was tier 6. Did his job in this lobby. And you can see Siegfried's not long for this world. There's Battleship, which is the Tirpitz, and then there's the Mogami. Now here, I thought, okay, Siegfried's low, he's broadside to us. We're going to aim high, go for upper side plating and superstructure, and see if we can't finish him off real quick. Now, unfortunately, he does get a heal off right as I decide to start attacking him, and that's going to get the Mogami's attention, and Mogami's going to focus all of his firepower on me, which I guess is fair, but at the same time, like, really? But fortunately, I don't have to worry about helping with the Siegfried after all, which means I can just go dark here. Mogami does take some more shots at us here, but we're so far away that hitting us at this range is going to be, well, never mind. He does decide to choose somebody else. And just because we are petty like that, we're going to go ahead and try to get back in here and get a little bit more damage. We've got 60k. We've done our job. This is a guaranteed win. All we have to do is survive. And it looks like the team is going to do the rest, right? Tirpitz is not long for this world. Mogami is not long for this world. And then I spot the Vladdy. And that's pretty much a death sentence for Vladdy, who's broadside to everybody on my team right now. Getting spotted in this situation was not what the Vladdy wanted at all. You can see he was using the island for cover. He was probably able to lob some shells over the island without being detected. But, yeah, sitting here like this, Mogami goes down, and that just leaves the Vladdy. Now, Vladdy is going away from me, which makes it very difficult for me to even think about torping him. So we just go ahead and we switch over to the HE, and we're going to see if we can't burn him down, get some fires on him. Not likely to do any damage with the SAP on a Russian battleship at all. So we're just trying to get something out of this. And you can see I'm trying to adjust my aim. There we go. Hitting superstructure, hitting a little bit of damage. It's not much. We go dark. He takes a shot at something. I don't know what he was shooting at exactly. But now that he's going behind the island, now I'm thinking, okay, now I have a chance. If I can get around this island, I get to torp him for free. Even if he kills me, it doesn't matter, because he will die as well. But the downside of this, unfortunately, is that the game is over before we get a chance to do this. I was like, man, every time I've had a chance to get a potential decent game out of these Italian destroyers, I've gotten, like, I've done my job, but I haven't gotten a crazy damage. And every time we start to put ourselves in a position for a good attack, it seems like the games are over. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I personally think that from tier 5 on, like once you get to tier 5, stop. with this line, because the rest of them, there's really no purpose to them. There's better options in any of the categories that this thing could potentially be put into, whether it be gunboat destroyers. There's plenty of better options than this. For torpedo destroyers, there's plenty of options better than this. So there's really, I don't see the purpose of them from tier 6 and up. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.